Ecker in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
With Gene and Chris in the Paracast, we have with us this week the once and only Don Ecker of the original Dark Matters radio show. The once and only? I don't know. Don, what do you think?
I think you're probably onto something there, Gene.
I just hope it's not contagious.
Yes. My wife has actually this past week been contagious, but she's finally starting to snap around.
Well, that's good to hear.
Winter cold, you know?
Yes, we can't have any of that stuff where people are contagious. Before we get started with lots of interesting feedback on a number of subjects, did you get a chance to listen to the show that we did with Timothy Good?
No, I have not yet heard that, Gene.
It's been interesting. It's been a bit of a trip.
How so?
Well, you see, part of the issue is that with Timothy Good, I guess he tends to be forgiving in his standards for evidence. Is that putting it mildly?
That's certainly, I guess, possible. It seems to be an affliction that at times afflict longtime UFO paranormal researchers, in some cases.
Well, how would you define it? And why does it afflict UFO and paranormal researchers?
Looking at it strictly from the UFO paranormal standpoint, that after, 25, 30 years of beating one's head upon the wall, if for whatever reason you decide to continue with it, then I think some people begin to, I don't want to say get slipshod with it, but some people may, even if it's only subconsciously, think, why go to all the hassle, the bother, you know? But, you know, I as far as Tim Good is concerned, I go all the way back to the 80s with Good. His original book, Above Top Secret, I always thought was an excellent piece of work, with the exception of, and even then, I guess perhaps he may have been a little guilty of it, although we all have at some point. But he allowed a real fraudster to slip in there, Guy Kirkwood, a.k.a. Mel Noel. And later, when his book was republished, it's my understanding he had some of those people removed. But, you know, originally, it's one of those things that can happen, Gene.
Okay, but it looks to me like he was accepting an awful lot of things. Like, for example, to him, George Adamski, the famous or infamous contactee from the 50s and 60s, the guy who was co-author of Flying Saucers Have Landed, he was the real deal. I almost thought, well, then he'd say that Billy Meyer is the real deal next.
Well, it's possible. But, you know, hey, I can only speak at the very bottom line for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. Those are not people that I personally would entertain. But on the other hand, I'm not Tim Good. So, you know, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware.
What about the theory here about hybrid aliens? That E.T. is evil, several races of grays, they're busy. What are they doing? They're busy going ahead and preparing us for a takeover.
Well, hybridizing docility into the gene pool.
Ah, yes. It hasn't worked very well, has it?
I don't know. It sure ain't working in the new country of Southern Sudan
Okay.
and elsewhere.
Were you asking me for my thoughts on that?
It helps.
Okay. Number one, we, if you're a researcher and if you're honest, I try to be honest. I can't say with any degree of certainty that even one race, much less multiple races, are here. I may suspect it. I may, over the years, have seen cases that suggest that. But the bottom line with me at this point is we're still talking about a heck of a lot of speculation. I can't go into a court of law, raise my hand, and swear to anything about that. So when it comes to tales of alien hybrids, once again, that's something that I personally have never seen any evidence of. I've heard a heck of a lot of testimony, and I've heard a lot of people that claim to have undergone those experiences. Now, did they undergo any experience? Well, once again, I don't know, but I can tell you that many of the people that I've interfaced with over the years were convinced they had undergone these experiences, these procedures. And even back in the early 90s, a missing fetus. I've talked to a number of people that have claimed that. Now, back in those days, we were working with a physician out here in Southern California, a Dr. Richard Neal. And I've told this story before on the Paracast. And Neal was one of those unusually rare scientists and doctors who was willing to look beyond what was on the surface. And he wanted to pursue this as far as possible. And he came to Vicki and I and asked if we would put him in touch with Mr. Bud Hopkins and Dr. Dave Jacobs, because they were the primary people within the UFO community that were working with abductees. And he wanted Hopkins and Dr. Jacobs to put him in touch with the people that they were working with, their clients, to secure the client's permission to go to their physicians and open up their medical files so Dr. Neal out here could look at them. And neither Dave Jacobs nor Bud Hopkins would assist him with that. So, you know, this is just another instance of where the entire UFO arena we're running around chasing our own tails. And after all these years, and I've been now involved in this morass for over 25 years, I haven't seen a heck of a lot of improvement, guys.
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of people who listen to the show were somewhat disappointed that Tim Good, personable gentleman, clearly has a lot of experience, but he just was too willing to accept a few things that didn't have a good basis for backup.
Well, you know, I'm coming from the background of being a police investigator, and to me, if you're working on one of these cases, evidence is the key. As much evidence as can be collected. So, without a heck of a lot of evidence, once again, all we're left with are some wonderful stories, to say the very least, but nothing much beyond a story.
And I won't get into that controversy that David Jacobs had with one of his subjects from another country that caused a lot of internet flaming and flame wars. What can I say about those things? I mean, it's just crazy. We're not going to be crazy today. We're just going to be wacko or something of that nature. We have Don Ecker, and he is the host of the Dark Matters radio show. And we're going to talk about that show and that name and something curious. With Gene and Chris, you're in
The Paracast.
Neighbors, are you tired of dealing with a slow web hosting provider? Well, check out A2 Hosting and their screaming fast Swift server platform. They even have SSDs that load pages 300% faster than the competition. Ready to give your site a speed boost? Well, tell you what, neighbors, head on over to a2hosting.com. That's A2, that's number 2, a2hosting.com. Check out their Prime hosting account. And get this, neighbors, they're even giving you an exclusive 25% off discount for all our listeners. 25%. And remember, their Guru Crew support team is standing by 24/7, 365 days a year to answer any of your questions. Now, to get the discount, use the coupon code GENE when you check out.
Friends, this is Alex Jones for MidasResources.com. For more than 15 years, I have exclusively used Midas Resources for all my precious metal needs. Whether it's bullion or collectibles you're looking for, Midas Resources is simply the best. I own my gold as a hedge against inflation. This Federal Reserve fiat currency could go the way of the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic anytime. In these historically dangerous times, it makes sense to physically hold gold and silver. Midas already has some of the best deals in the industry. But if you give them a call and mention the radio special, they will give you a list of the day's super specials. Midas brokers are standing by to answer all your questions at 800-686-2237. They also have a lot of informative free literature explaining the opportunities and risk of holding precious metals. They are ready to answer your questions at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237.
To thank you for being a loyal listener, we have a limited time freebie offer for you. Claim your free heirloom tomato seeds, just pay shipping, right now at 123freeseeds.com. These aren't ordinary seeds. These are heirloom, non-genetically modified super seeds that are open pollinated and can be grown, harvested, and replanted endlessly. These survival seeds are actually more valuable than gold in a crisis. Go to 123freeseeds.com and you can get an airtight storage packet of 150 super seeds free while supplies last to say thank you for being a loyal listener. First come, first served. Just cover shipping. Go to 123freeseeds.com now to see if your free heirloom seeds are still available. That's 123freeseeds.com.
Hi, my name is Annette, and due to menopause symptoms for nearly 2 years, I suffered severe hot flashes, which prevented me from sleeping all night. It was so hard to work because I continued all day to have the hot flashes from hell. I was exhausted and depleted. After only 3 weeks on One World Way, I have no hot flashes, and I'm sleeping normally again. I feel energized and strong. This is an amazing product.
It is a little-known fact that every single cell of your body is supposed to produce 10% of its protein content as glutathione. But due to toxicity and aging, it does not. Could glutathione be a missing factor in optimal cell function for your entire body? If you restore the optimal glutathione levels in your cells, especially your glands and organs, then as a result, your glands and organs work better. Imagine the quality of life improvement you might have. To order One World Way, call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldway.com. That's oneworld.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Before we go on, Chris O'Brien, and return to Don Ecker, our session with Tim Good, were you pleased, disappointed, what?
Actually, Gene, I was a little disappointed. I really felt that, as Don pointed out, Tim's early work was very instrumental in many people's thinking who have been involved in studying this phenomenon for the past 25 years. I think his Beyond Top Secret, Above Top Secret tandem pairing of books were very influential in my thinking early on. But it seems as if he's purposefully kind of suspended his disbelief to a point where he's almost proud of it. And to me, that doesn't make for a good scenario where you're properly analyzing the evidence, as Don pointed out. And anecdotal stories are just that. They're anecdotal stories. I mean, show me the beef. Show me some physical evidence. Show me any sort of documentation that can support some of these fairly wild assertions. I was disappointed. I really think that Tim has taken the easy road. I think it's a little bit disingenuous to just say, well, that's what they told me. The guy seemed believable, so I'm going to believe him. That to me is kind of a lazy way out. And I know Don and myself and many others are much more prone to ask the tough questions, to dig a little deeper, to probe a little harder, and really attempt to the best of our ability to ascertain the truth. And you know, Tim's been at this for a long time, so perhaps he's really lost that sense of motivation and that sense of wonder that you need to really dig. I was a little disappointed. I met Tim many years ago. We flew around the San Luis Valley, as I mentioned on the show, with John Altshuler. Had a really scary experience. I've enjoyed his books, but again, I think it's intellectual laziness to take the easy road out and just say, "Hey, look, it's their opinions. I'm just reporting the facts." Sounds believable to me. I don't adhere to that style myself.
You know, we had him on several years ago with a previous co-host. I do not remember Tim Good seeming this accepting or gullible of different claims. It seemed that he was more centered in his viewpoints then. Maybe the questions we asked didn't take him in that direction. I don't know. But I did see a change. I was concerned about George Adamski, so much so because I've seen so much information that refuted what that guy said. And the photos are absurd. I don't know how anybody can accept those photos as being correct, being authentic. Especially the early ones where he's using GE light bulbs. And I think somebody once said they could see the brand name on the base of the UFO.
Well, also the famous one with the three what look like half ping pong balls. You can actually see the glue squirting out from one of those half ping pong balls. I was really disappointed in him not probing a little deeper about Ray and Rex Stanford's experience of actually exposing Adamski's photo studio. I was surprised he didn't want to hear more about that. It's almost like, don't tell me something I don't want to hear, which I don't feel is the proper way to go about any sort of fact gathering, any sort of intelligence gathering. It doesn't make sense to me.
Nor does it make sense to me either. Oh, well, there you go. Let's move on. Don Ecker, you had kind of an interesting situation in 2013 when a famous radio talk show host, one of the pioneers in paranormal radio, he decides to come back and do a new show. And so he does. But of all the names that he could use, why did he pick a name that you are familiar with, Dark Matter? How could he not know? Now, let me give you a background here, something I haven't mentioned on the show before. I received a contact from Keith Rowland, that's Art Bell's webmaster. He's been mentioned quite heavily on his show over the years. He's worked with him for a number of occasions. And he doesn't live far from here. He's almost a neighbor. And he tells me that Art's going to have this new radio network, a streaming network called Dark Matter. And maybe we'd like to get involved somehow. So I said, I don't mind new deals, exploring new options for the show. But we've got a problem here, my friend, and that is the name Dark Matter. Is Art not aware that Don Ecker, who he's had on the radio show on some occasions, has a show that he's been doing for a number of years called Dark Matters? How did this come about? Now, he claims that Art didn't know. Maybe he's out of the loop or something. But I thought to myself, and Don, you could give me your reaction. I thought, if you're going to have a name for a product, a service, a show, whatever, wouldn't the first thing you do would be to look on Google to see if someone else is using the name? Just thinking about that. Number one, if you don't use Google, you use Bing. I can't understand it. Don?
I was, for quite a while, I knew that Art Bell was coming back. I mean, there had been a lot of beat on the internet. A lot of people were very excited by the prospect that Art Bell was coming back. A lot of people had missed Art Bell over the years, especially, and there's no getting around it, the dynamic show that Bell had back in the 90s. Especially in light of what has since happened to Coast, the radio show today, under the present radio host, George Norrie. Now, Art was and still is, as far as I know, up on Facebook. So I had sent Art a private message about, 4 or 5 weeks or so prior to his launch in September. And I said, congratulations to you on bringing back your radio show and what have you. And I signed it. And as I often do, I put beneath my name, host Dark Matters Radio. Now, guys, I've been doing Dark Matters Radio since the year 2004. When I started DMR, I was on a satellite broadcasting system at the time, and my co-host with me then was Dwight Schultz. Now, after Dwight went his way and he was doing primarily political stuff, which, that political talk radio just kind of leaves me cold. And, but that was something that he was really into. And I respect that. I began doing DMR, periodically. It wasn't on every week or, I might do a show every couple of weeks, and that was with another producer. And it wasn't until January of 2010 that I began doing DMR 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday.
We'll get into more of the history of Dark Matters Radio and the conflict with Art Bell and more. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
If you want to get your website online and you need reliable service, first-class service at the lowest possible price, there's only one place to go. Well, DreamHost has a special promotion with our show where they'll offer you unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click web apps such as WordPress, 24/7 support. You can save over $55. You want to know how? Go to dreamhost.com/radio, dreamhost.com/radio.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Do you owe the IRS money that you can't pay? Are tax liens and levies ruining your life? Are you tired of being afraid just to go to the mailbox? If this describes you, then Dan Pilla can help.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla, and I've been solving tax problems for more than 30 years. In fact, I wrote the book that made it possible to negotiate settlements with the IRS, and I've helped thousands of people do exactly that. Call now at 800-346-6829 to learn how I can help you. You know your IRS debt will not go away by itself, but you don't have to live in fear anymore. New changes to IRS policies will help more people than ever before eliminate their debts once and for all. There's no need for you to suffer another day with IRS debt. Call 800-346-6829. I can help you eliminate wage and bank levies, release tax liens, and negotiate a settlement with the IRS that will put your tax nightmare behind you forever. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, taxhelponline.com. That's taxhelponline.com.
Great news, pure water lovers. BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com has a special discount offer for all GCN listeners. You can't do better than a Big Berkey for economy. For only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. There's none better than a Big Berkey for emergency preparedness as a backup water source. And you just can't beat a Big Berkey to remove dangerous chlorine, all types of fluoride, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, parasites, and unhealthy byproducts from municipal water. Berkey water filter systems are even powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. For the gold standard in water filters, get a Big Berkey at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And all GCN listeners get 5% off all ceramic filter systems. For details, call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
It's no secret that silver is one of the oldest known natural antibiotics, but the mainstream media will never tell we the people this information. Why? Many drug companies and politicians have dangerous alliances that manipulate the way we live by prescribing drugs that only manage disease, keeping us dependent on big pharma. And with Obamacare at our doorstep, we are now forced into a system that many of us do not want any part of. And no man or government has the right to dictate how we as free people choose to take care of our health. The patriots at utopiasilver.com hold this truth dear. Colloidal and ionic silver supplements from utopiasilver.com open the door to a whole new world of natural healing for the body and the mind. Visit utopiasilver.com and discover the safe and effective health benefits of colloidal and ionic silver. Call 888-213-4338, 888-213-4338, and talk to the patriots at utopiasilver.com, a leading source of natural healing using colloidal silver, colloidal gold, minerals, vitamins, and herbs. utopiasilver.com.
This is Hilly Rose, and I hope that you do listen to the Paracast because you will learn a great deal about the paranormal.
So we have Dark Matter from Art Bell, Dark Matters Radio from Don Ecker. Don's here with our year-end wrap-up to try to explain what happened next. Don?
Yeah, so I began broadcasting 5 nights a week on Cyberstation USA back in January of 2010. And on Friday nights, because he was usually available and free, my good friend and co-host on Friday night, Richard Saraday, came on. So when Art was coming back to the air and I saw the name that he was using, I thought, well, that's pretty odd. So I wrote him again, and I never did hear a word from Art Bell about it. Not so much as thanks for your congratulatory note or anything. So I thought, well, I'll just wait and see what's going to develop out of this. Now, when I saw his first week of guests when he launched, I had a feeling at that time that if that was the quality of guests that he was bringing on the show, that it would not last. Now, I knew nothing at the time about any other discussions that Art was having with Sirius Radio. As it turned out, he broadcast for 4 or 5 weeks, and the show was canceled. Now, whether Sirius decided to cancel it or Art decided to cancel it, it's not even germane to the discussion. But the fact that that he did that, and if you put Dark Matters Radio or Dark Matters into any of the search engines, my face and show jump up all over the place. So, it's just beyond the pale to believe that Art Bell was not aware or privy of it. I mean, Bell has known me for over 20 years. So, I'm kind of flabbergasted by it. I've had people come to me and say, well, are you going to sue him or, this kind of, my God, no. What would that do except, deplete my depleted wallet already? So, cream rises to the top. And so do other things rise to the top. And, I'm just content to wait and see what he does with it, if anything.
Well, right now, look, we conveyed the message in different ways. I conveyed it to his webmaster. You conveyed it to him. I don't know what he thinks he was doing. I can't imagine he want to steal your thunder or something. I just think maybe he didn't consider the consequences and didn't pay attention. Maybe he just wasn't paying attention. Maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe that's part of the problem with his new show, that he brought on these people who I guess were sensational or interesting back in the 90s, brings them back
people
on
like
the show.
Jonathan Reed. Okay. Now, there was a fraud from practically day one. And anybody that even gave a cursory look at that case recognized that it was fraudulent. I mean, just the story that he himself relayed on Bell's show on Coast to Coast. Chris, I'm sure you remember that, right?
Oh, how could I forget? I mean, it was one of the most ludicrous examples of sensationalism and just talk about suspension of disbelief. I mean, my God, everything about that case just, it really ticked me off, actually, when the whole thing broke. And I couldn't believe the guy is still today being taken seriously. It baffles me.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing in the UFO field, which always bothers me, is that you expose somebody. It's like George Adamski was exposed by Jim Moseley in the special Adamski expose issue back in, 1957. It doesn't matter. But that's also true in all sorts of persuasions. You expose some kind of politician is lying. You confirm he's lying. You confirm you probably knew he was lying, but it doesn't make a difference.
Well, another case in point, and this was also an investigation that I've talked about on the Paracast before. I had mentioned Tim Good in his book Above Top Secret, featuring a guy that in the book was going by the name of Mel Noel.
Yes.
Guy Kirkwood is his name, or the name that he was using the last time I saw him. And prior to that, he was using another name, Noel Bryce Cornwall. Now, this was a guy that had billed himself to Good and actually had a shtick going back to the 60s that he had been an Air Force interceptor pilot that was flying out of a top secret base back in 54 or thereabouts, chasing and photographing UFOs. Good gave him several pages in Above Top Secret talking about that. Well, I met the guy back about 1990 or 91, and I was interested because I didn't know anything about him at the time. I was interested in possibly doing a feature on that, if it were true, in the pages of UFO magazine. So what I told this guy was basically, look, I'm very interested in writing about this. Would you be interested? Oh, yes. I said, great. Now, look, all I'm going to need is to see a copy of your DD-214. In other words, his military discharge papers. Oh, okay, Don, I'll get those. Well, I never heard from the guy for over a year. And then one of those weekly shows was coming out. It might have been, well, God, there were so many of them back in the early 90s. But he was featured on this weekly show that dealt with UFOs and investigations and what have you, in the company of Linda Moulton Howe, who, from what I understand, had taken him to this show. Suddenly, the floodgates literally broke, and everybody was talking about this show and this guy. And I started doing a little research on him, and I found out that not only had he been exposed back in the 60s, but we all remember Bob Dornan, B-1 bomber Bob Dornan, the congressman from Southern California, who actually had been an Air Force interceptor pilot. And I met his brother, Don Dornan, who back in the 60s and 70s had been a staff member of Look magazine, or Life magazine, one of them, had been a photographer, among other things, and had gone down and did an entire investigation on Guy Kirkwood, along with the connection of another guy who was in Mexico at the time, also running a UFO scam. So I did this complete investigation and expose on Kirkwood in the pages of UFO magazine back in '92. And to make a long story short, for quite a while, because he was really once again becoming very visible, a lot of people saw that. Now, about 2 years later, somebody called me up at the magazine and said, Don, did you see who they're bringing in? The LA MUFON group to speak, not only in LA, but also down in Orange County. And I said, no. Who? Guy Kirkwood, the guy that I had exposed and that others had exposed. Now, MUFON has always built itself as being a scientific geared organization looking at the science and the facts. So at the time, the guy in charge of MUFON in LA, and he's no longer in California, he moved, I believe, to Florida, was a fellow by the name of Don Waldrop. So I called Don up.
And we're going to find out what you learned during that conversation. With Don Ecker joining Gene and Chris for a year-ender, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Are you frustrated with your current job? Not making the type of money that you know you are worth? Is it time for a change? Maybe it's time you considered starting your own home-based business. Autopilot Marketing has helped thousands of people just like you get started working from home. Whether it's an extra $250 to $500 per month part-time or a six-figure full-time income, anything is possible. You don't need any special skills or experience. Anyone can succeed with Autopilot Marketing. Take our free video tour and find out if this opportunity is right for you. Go to income16.com now. That's income, the number 16.com. Take our free video tour today and start earning money as early as next week. Go to income16.com. That's income, the number 16.com.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey Water Filtration Systems. The Berkey Light Systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even if I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
With Gene and Chris in the Paracast, Don Ecker with the year-ender making a key phone call in his search for a hoaxer, and you found out, Don Ecker?
So I had called Don Waldrop, who at the time was running the LA MUFON group, and every month they would bring in speakers, and it was actually quite a going concern. And I got a hold of him and I said, Don, I can't believe that you're bringing in Guy Kirkwood. I said, this guy has been exposed as a fraudulent hoaxer, not only by myself, but by others. And I mentioned it to him. And quite frankly, the bottom line was he wasn't interested. They were interested in filling speakers for their organization. His comeback was, well, we'll have the guy speak. The audience can make up their own mind. Now, to me, that's pure pap if, in fact, you're billing yourself as a scientifically geared and oriented organization. So they brought in known hoaxers and fraudsters. Now, with that kind of a mindset, the bottom line is that UFOs and other paranormal topics will never be taken seriously by anybody that matters because of that totally slipshod approach.
All right, this gets to be the same thing all over again about the proven hoaxer is never exposed. I'm going to mention one other guy that has been shown to be a hoaxer, and I was in touch with people who never heard of any of this. Of course, we're talking about Sean David Morton, a guy who was making up all sorts of stories and then was providing investment advice and finally was sued by the government for millions of dollars for fraud. And I was talking to somebody who does another radio show. And we became friendly, and I was talking shop with them. And they mentioned the guest they had, and they said, Sean David Morton. And I said, what? You're not aware of this background? No. You're not aware of UFOWatchdog.com and Royce Myers running all those exposés? So they weren't aware. It's like you do all this work. People in this field are exposed as hucksters, hoaxers. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, the bottom line is that if you really boil it down, and this is my opinion, if you really boil it down, the people that actually care about the truth, care about facts, care about evidence, compared to the overall group that claim that they're interested in this, the percentage is very small.
I want to believe, Don. I want to believe. I don't care about the facts.
Yeah. That's the bottom line. Just like that poster that was on Agent Fox Mulder's FBI office wall. I want to believe. And I've encountered that for 25 years, practically every time I've talked to people. I talk to somebody. So, what are you going to do? Well, you can only do the best that you personally can do and let the chips fall where they fall.
What always happens here is the fact that you expose these people and they kind of slink away in the darkness. And they disappear for a year or two.
Yeah, only to rise again like Dracula. And
yes.
Don or you
the
or
stake
somebody.
in the heart. You show how they're fake. I'm kind of thinking like someone like a Phil Imbrogno. And I don't know whether he's tried to come back or not. But we show that his educational credentials were fake. He was exposed by Lance Moody, one of our friendly skeptics, by people in our forums. It was shown that his claim of going to MIT was basically fraudulent.
Well, and Don also exposed his service record. I mean, the guy's like, claiming he served his country honorably in a particular capacity, and all Don had to do was make a couple of phone calls and just totally blew that out of the water.
Well, yeah, even as far as I was concerned, even more egregious than his fraudulent academic credentials were his fraudulent military credentials. And that offended me and any other veteran that served in Southeast Asia during the war, to the max. So that guy, is at the bottom of the heap as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I think it all boils down to the fact that there are so many people out here interested in these phenomenal subjects that they're so attached to some sort of preconceived concept that they feel rings true for them, and they get blinders on. And when you have like Linda Moulton Howe promoting Guy Kirkwood and Art Bell bringing back Jonathan Reed and Sean David Morton showing up as the master of ceremonies at conferences after being brought up on charges by the SEC, and to me, it's really disheartening. If we are ever going to be taken seriously by academia, by the scientific community, we have to self-police and self-regulate somehow, on some level, these people that don't deserve, even a second's notice. And it's so frustrating for me. And I know, Don, I'm speaking for you and Gene. There's no litmus test for credibility, for a level of gravitas that needs to be there for us to be accepted as anything but a pseudoscience. I all I do is aspire to proto-science, and I can't get over the pseudoscience tag. And it's really frustrating.
Well, you look over the years at some of the very serious researchers that have been out there that ultimately met their end, probably no more cognizant of what's actually going on than the three of us are today. People like, well, of course, I always mention Kehoe, but others like Ivan Sanderson,
James McDonald,
Glenn Stringfield, McDonald, Dick Hall, John Keel, for God's sake. And at least Keel was always, sharp enough to basically let people know, and I know he did to me personally, that he didn't have a clue what the hell was going on. So, there are a lot of people that have attached their coattails to this thing with, I think, simply the objective of writing this just to see where it goes, and could care less about the journey. And unfortunately, that's something that ends up painting all of us with very broad brush strokes.
Yeah. Well, it's the hucksters. It's the people that get on board, the latest bandwagon or personality or claim, and then, take it into the big tent and start, grabbing the bullhorn and start screaming about how this is the next greatest case that we all should be paying attention to, without doing the legwork, without, background checking these people, without, following up on claims and getting corroborating evidence and just using standard basic journalistic protocols. I mean, come on. If 2014 is going to be another example of how all these decades and years have unfolded in terms of people not doing their homework and touting questionable claims, I may be forced into retirement. I have busted my tailbone here with this new project that I'm about ready to unleash on the world. And, I really am at a point where I am getting so fed up with the BS that's out in this field and the way the culture and the media and people's, sense of that Fox Mulder poster that they want to believe so stridently that they will abdicate responsibility for any sort of intellectual honesty and just buy into the next greatest thing. I mean, we have got to nip this vicious cycle somehow at the bud.
Before we get Bud on the show and he disputes what Chris just said. That's a bad pun. It's a bad pun. We have Don Ecker joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Not just an alternative to the mainstream media. We're the premier independent talk radio network. We are GCN.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you'd like to listen to GCN programs on the go, I have great news. GCN has created a Droid and iPhone application, and it's free. Just as easy as going to GCNlive.com, click on the banner, and download. Before you know it, you'll be listening to your favorite hard-hitting GCN shows, live or on demand, right on your Droid or iPhone, 24/7 and on the go. So download the Droid and iPhone app free by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Thanks again for listening to GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
A healthy digestive system supports a healthy immune system. And a healthy immune system protects you against infections and disease. Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse, available at Teraganics.com, is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic and is gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 contains 3 groups of beneficial microbes and enzymes to cleanse and remove toxins, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, and aids in controlling yeast and other infections. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy-free, is non-GMO, has all natural certified organic ingredients, has no preservatives, and is never freeze-dried. Pro EM1 is the key to your digestive health. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Teraganics.com, spelled Teraganix.com. Teraganics.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic. We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Yes, we're going to talk to Bud, or nip it in the bud. We got to stop this craziness where wackier and wackier claims are being presented strictly for entertainment, like the twins who shall not be named. Those guys online where they kind of convince some regular people, smart people, hoodwink them into going on the show, like Richard Dolan went on the show with these guys. You know, he's busy. He does a lot of things. He was trying to be nice and everything. Didn't realize what he was getting into.
Now you guys know why I call myself on the Paracast the paranormal curmudgeon.
Well, we knew that about you before, Don. It just comes out a little bit more matter of factly. I think on your show it comes out a little stridently, but on our show it's like, you know, everybody already knows that that's how you feel. They know that's how we feel, and when you get all three of us together in the same stew, it becomes it starts to get a little heated.
Yeah, well, you know, I find that as I increasingly age each year, my BS factor becomes increasingly shorter as time goes along. I have much less tolerance for the BS factor today than I did even, let's say, 5 years ago. So.
Well, the BS starts smelling a lot more ripe.
Yeah.
Let's not get too graphic, folks. This is a family radio show, but sometimes what can you do? I'll tell you, though, it is so strange, so crazy how people in this field, thus exposed, have their second life and their third life, and they go on and on. I don't know. But we're still going to persevere. We're still thinking about what to do in 2014 with the Paracast, how to take things to another level. And we're considering different options. So let's see what happens. By the way, one thing we are considering, let me mention this before we get back with Don. As you might know, if you listen carefully, the quality of our podcast version of this show increased in October. The reason being that the folks at GCN gave us files with twice the bit rate. So instead of 64K, kind of like satellite radio, is 128K, which is, you know, is good for music and everything. But for voice, I don't know that it made much of a difference. It meant the file size was twice as large. And some listeners say, you know what? It's too large. Why don't you go back? We have a poll at forum.theparacast.com. And the title of the segment in which we have that poll is called the Paracast Audio Quality Poll. And if you're interested in voting, go ahead. Tell us whether you want to have the higher quality audio or the regular audio we used to have. Just bear in mind, we might find a way to do it so that we have both versions. But right now, there you go. Don Ecker, Gene, and Chris were all catching up on the year, trying to figure out what's happening in this crazy field and where we can go. Now, interesting, I want to get your reaction about this. Interesting, Don, is that one of the shows that got the most reaction ever, a couple of shows, as a matter of fact, were those that concerned crop circles. Like the biggest thing, some of the most popular shows of 2013. What's your take on it?
Crop circles, I've been following off and on, going back to when they really made their first appearance in American media here in the States back in the very early 90s. I can recall vividly that we were covering that in UFO magazine. And I sat down, and I have some friends that live in the UK. One of them is a world-renowned paranormal researcher by the name of John Spencer. Now, John and I have been, like I said, friends for a very long time. So whenever something like that pops up, especially in Europe, I'll get in touch with John to get his take on it, because invariably, even though he's not as active now as he once was, he still keeps his finger on the pulse of a lot of that stuff. And I sat down. This was about the time that it was announced that the crop circle mystery had been solved, that it was actually a couple of guys who would go to their local pub, get liquored up, and then go out. This was their story. And they would clomp around in some farmer's field making these intricate geometric forms in the field. Now, just on the surface, I didn't buy that. It sounded too improbable to me. So I sat down one day with a pencil and a pad and a calculator, and I did a few calculations. Number one, the primary growing season in England, how long is their growing season? And it was something like 90, 91, 92 days. And the number at that time of all the crop circles that had popped up, and I figured that in. Well, to make a long story short, what I ended up discovering was that Doug and Dave, these two rum-dums that were claiming credit for creating all these crop circles, would have had to do something like 11 visits per night for the growing season. In other words, all the crop circles, if they were responsible, they would, and that just didn't calculate. So I called and faxed every news organization. We had a logbook of everybody from AP and even these small, obscure news services. And I faxed all of them or called them. And surprisingly, we never even got one return call about that disproved this story. Now, that told me a lot about the media, as if I needed a further lesson. These guys, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's sensational, they'll go with it and then drop it like a hot potato. They want nothing further to do with it because it just doesn't pay for whatever reason to report on these things. So I never really bought into that. Then, one other thing about crop circles. In 90, we went down to Pensacola for the MUFON symposium down there. And down there, I met and became very good friends with Dr. John Brandenburg. Now, Brandenburg, as I'm sure you know, is a Mars expert for years. He's been very involved in UFO research, and the man is actually a real, honest-to-God rocket scientist. He's been working on advanced propulsion systems, not only for NASA, but for private aerospace concerns for years. And John was out here in California at a scientific conference a year or two later. So we were talking one day. He had come out to visit me at our house. We were talking one day about the crop circles. And he said, Don, he said, let me show you something. So we went out in my front yard, cut a square of sod with grass growing on it out of my yard, put it on a paper plate, took it in the house, put it in the microwave for 15 seconds. Well, when I pulled it out, all that grass on that chunk of sod had laid down and intertwined itself, just like the reports that were coming out of the crop circles. And I said to John, I said, well, microwaves did that. He said, yeah. I said, well, what is it that you're telling me? He said, what I think is that these crop circles, or many of them, are actually the product of military microwave testing.
Okay, we're going to find out more about that interesting slant on crop circles. Don Ecker of the Dark Matters radio show with Gene and Chris. You're in the Paracast.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. the site went down. It just stopped responding. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Check it out. iWeb.com. That's iWeb.com.
Do you know how much the dollar has lost in its value against other currencies in the last 90 days? Ever think about how inflation will change your life, your savings, your retirement plans? Remember inflation in Zimbabwe, Argentina, the Weimar Republic? Put another way, who cares if your investments go up 10%, but you lose 40% of your purchasing power? Gold is the only monetary asset as no one else's liability. Gold still buys the same amount of stuff it always did. Gold does not require trust in a third party. You can possess it in your hand. You can take it with you. Gold is real money. Gold is honest money. My name is Daniel Larson from Midas Resources. To find out how you can protect your savings and roll over your IRA funds into precious metals accounts, please call me at 800-686-2237, extension 134. That's 800-686-2237, extension 134. 800-686-2237, extension 134.
An e-cig revolution is sweeping across the country. But is yours American-made? Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig is. Manufactured in Arkansas with 100% USA-sourced ingredients. And when you buy American, you support local jobs. Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig is top quality at an affordable price. The very principle that once drove the American economy. Get great taste with no ash, tar, or smoke. You'll be wondering why you didn't make the change to Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig a long time ago. LeSig.com has everything you need, for beginners to the advanced vaping enthusiast, with a wide variety of hardware, and also imported e-liquid flavors as well. Plus, LeSig smokes the competition with fast, free, same-day shipping, real people customer service, and a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. Support our country and become a Vaporite at LeSig.com. Or call 870-525-1440, 870-525-1440. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
My name's Bruno. I'm 52 years old. I've tried different protein powders over the years, and they've all tasted pretty bad. I tried One World Whey and found it to be delicious. After 10 weeks on One World Whey, my wife commented, "You have more muscles and you're leaner than when you were 20 years old." My body has changed dramatically. I'm a cyclist. Normally I'll ride 2 days on and take 2 days off. After being on One World Whey, I rode 10 days in a row in over 100-degree heat, and then I'd take another 2 servings of One World Whey, and then work out at the gym for another hour and a half. I just couldn't believe these results. My normal muscle tightness and soreness after working out are virtually gone. Don't take my word for it. One World Whey comes in single servings. Just give it a try.
For a health and taste sensation you'll love, call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
This is Kurt Sotheby, author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
The Year Ender with Don Ecker of the Dark Matters radio show. So with crop circles, we've learned about artists do it. Maybe some of them claim to have paranormal influences, although some people still think ET's involved. Now you're talking about the Army, Don Ecker?
The military, yes.
The military.
Yes, and I was quite impressed with that. Now, if you look at some of these intricate designs, I mean, they are astounding. And they, in many ways, they remind me of the intricacies that are involved in weaving rugs, weaving designs into rugs.
So basically, the military has some artists on the payroll.
Well, I think what they were, if in fact it is the military that's involved with a number of these, I think basically what they're using is some type of computerized control testing these microwaves. And I was never, ever even did I consider the possibility that it was ET. Now, I'm certainly am not saying that I know how ET thinks. How could I? How could anyone? But it just never made sense. And I mean, why would somebody come here from 20, 30, or 50 or 100 light years away and then sit around, you know, in their flying saucer making weird designs in some farmer's field? That never made sense. And it never made sense to me that strictly hoaxsters were responsible for all of these. I can remember reports coming in once again back in the 90s when we were still publishing UFO magazine, where people were actually in fields when this phenomenon happened. And the reports that were coming back that these people suffered sunburn type effects, they were weakened, they were affected adversely because they were in the field when this thing happened. So I've always suspected that it was microwaves.
Speaking of microwaves, we had David Roundtree on the show a couple of weeks back. Now, just to go back to the issue of credentials, he's someone who does not even want to mention where he went to school, although when he said go Gators, we had an indication of where he might have gone, and it looks like some of the things I see on Facebook, he probably did go there. Regardless, he was saying that this microwave background radiation may be causing some of the illnesses people experience in connection with paranormal events. And he was claiming more than the usual number of people in the UFO field have suffered early deaths as a result. Don?
Yeah, well, you know, that once again, that takes me back to when John Keel was alive. And I had met John Keel and got to know him fairly well. I mean, well enough that I could call him at home and talk to him about certain things. And that was one of the questions, because having read his book, The Mothman Prophecies, when it first was published, I was literally set back on my heels by some of the allegations and assertions that Keel had made in that book. And one of the things that he talked about in there were physical effects on people that were around these so-called paranormal happenings. Keel was, you know, a lot of people denigrated John Keel. They didn't think he was serious enough about it, that he might have padded some of his accounts and what have you. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'll tell you this much. Keel got out into the field. He put the miles on investigating these things. He traveled to God knows how many places. He did quite a few books on not only UFOs, but other paranormal happenings. I respected the man's viewpoints and his investigative expertise. And I'll never forget him telling me a couple of things about early deaths concerned with researchers. He asked me one time, he said, do you know, out of all the people that research all of this business, who have the highest death rate? And this was, well, this would have been back and once again in the early 90s. And I said, well, no, John, what? He said, JFK researchers and Bigfoot researchers. And, you know, Bigfoot is another one of those odd circumstances. People get involved in that. And I've known in my time a number of Bigfoot researchers, and good God, they squabble with each other more than people in the UFO field do. So the fact that that they, according to Keel, they and the JFK researchers have suffered a higher death rate percentage than just about anybody else has got to tell you something. So I don't know.
So those who get involved in JFK research, maybe the government is going after them?
Oh, you know, I would not go.
Not serious, of course.
No, but JFK researchers, and I can recall that assassination vividly. And over the years, although I was never a big JFK researcher, over the years I followed a number of people that were in depth involved in that research. And they have, in fact, had a lot of people that have dropped by the wayside. But, hey, guys, look, we're all at some point going to drop by the wayside. That's in the cards.
The question would be, Don, whether some people are dying by the wayside prematurely. Okay, but let's talk about JFK, because it's still like the number one conspiracy on the planet. Do you take the original Warren Commission report as accurate, that it was just Lee Harvey Oswald, the crazed former turncoat, or something more involved?
No, I think it was definitely something more involved. I'm convinced that there were at least two shooters. The reason I am convinced about that is having seen the Zapruder film many times.
Sure.
JFK was, now I don't know about the shots from the rear. He was definitely hit from the rear, but something hit him from the front. I saw the impact of the bullet hitting his forehead. I saw his head explode. I saw him violently knocked to the rear and then to the side after the bullet impact. I have personally, in Vietnam, I have seen people shot, and let me tell you what, I have yet to see anybody fall into a bullet. So if it would have only been from the rear that he was shot, that just does not make sense to me, the way his body reacted from that fatal head wound, from that headshot.
We'll have more to say about JFK conspiracy. We'll also have Don's answer to your questions, listeners. More coming with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
GCN thanks our listeners for all your support this year. We wish you all the best in 2014. Happy New Year from GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. Lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
We live in a complicated society. Stressful issues are always popping up. Have you ever been treated unfairly by someone? Have you ever been overcharged for a repair? Have you ever signed a contract or a document? Worried about identity theft? How many times have you been in those unique situations where you just wanted to call an attorney to find out if you're right or wrong, or what your legal rights are? But every time you think about calling an attorney, what do you think about first? That's right. Who do you call, and how much will it cost? Our friends at Legal Shield have found a solution. With a nationwide network of 6,900 attorneys who average over 19 years of experience, Legal Shield's law firms take over 40,000 calls per week helping their members. For less than $20 per month, you can have access to Legal Shield on everything from the trivial to the traumatic. Let Legal Shield stand up for your rights at lsprotection.com. That's lsprotection.com. Or call 855-340-SAVE, 855-340-7283.
To thank you for being a loyal listener, we have a limited time freebie offer for you. Claim your free heirloom tomato seeds, just pay shipping, right now at 123freeseeds.com. These aren't ordinary seeds. These are heirloom, non-genetically modified super seeds that are open pollinated and can be grown, harvested, and replanted endlessly. These survival seeds are actually more valuable than gold in a crisis. Go to 123freeseeds.com and you can get an airtight storage packet of 150 super seeds free while supplies last to say thank you for being a loyal listener. First come, first served. Just cover shipping. Go to 123freeseeds.com now to see if your free heirloom seeds are still available. That's 123freeseeds.com.
A healthy digestive system supports a healthy immune system. And a healthy immune system protects you against infections and disease. Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse, available at Terraganics.com, is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic and is gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 contains 3 groups of beneficial microbes and enzymes to cleanse and remove toxins, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, and aids in controlling yeast and other infections. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy-free, is non-GMO, has all natural certified organic ingredients, has no preservatives, and is never freeze-dried. Pro EM1 is the key to your digestive health. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganics.com, spelled Terraganix.com. Terraganics.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic.
Hi, this is Ted Phillips, listening to the Paracast, and it's as good as it gets, believe me.
Don Ecker of the Dark Matters radio show joins us in the Paracast with Gene and Chris. We're doing kind of a year-ender here. The thing that bothered me almost from the first is that Lee Harvey Oswald allegedly buys this crummy rifle. And you think if the guy really wants to do JFK in, and maybe he's a passable shooter, okay? Wouldn't he get a decent gun? Why get a piece of junk?
Well, yeah. I mean, that is first and foremost. Lee Harvey Oswald barely qualified when he was in the Marine Corps as a rifleman. Barely. They have 3 levels of competency, and he was at the very bottom of the rung. And as a matter of fact, over the years, I've known people that have known people that were quite famous in conspiracy circles, like Kerry Thornley, people that looked into Lee Harvey Oswald, that had followed up on a lot of this. You know, at one point, the JFK conspiracy was a almost all-consuming conspiracy that, like so many other conspiracies that I've witnessed over the years, like the tentacles of an octopus that could take you to some very weird places. Danny Casolaro is a name that pops into mind with, talk of conspiracies. But Lee Harvey Oswald, there were so many things to suggest that he, in fact, was the patsy that he had claimed himself to be just before he was murdered in that garage as the police were taking him out of there. I could not testify in a court of law to this, but I am convinced that he was the red herring, that there was a conspiracy. God only knows where the conspiracy emanated from. There were elements of the American mob, the mafia, involved in this. There were a lot of Cubans that had been paramilitary soldiers for the CIA after the abortive Bay of Pigs fiasco in Cuba. There were a lot of different factions that hated and loathed President Kennedy. So, is it conceivable that a number of these diverse factions came together to get rid of him? I mean, there was a very famous quote that came from, I believe it was mobster Sam Giancana, or God, I can't think of his name now.
Giancana,
that said that were incensed at Bobby Kennedy, who was the attorney general at the time. And the mob had felt betrayed by the Kennedy brothers because they basically assured the election of JFK by taking over the Chicago machine, okay, that got JFK elected. I mean, people today forget.
Yeah, how close that election was, and it was turned in Chicago.
Exactly, yes. So as soon as Bobby Kennedy became the attorney general, he began going after the mob hammer and tongue. Chris, do you recall those famous Senate hearings with the Teamster, Jimmy Hoffa, and Kennedy in there grilling him about the mob ties? These guys were really upset and ticked off. And Sam Giancana said, when somebody suggested that they go after Bobby and take him out, he said no. He said, you don't kill a dog by chopping the tail off. If you want to kill a dog, you cut the head off. Well, who was the head? Was President JFK. So is it conceivable that the mob and the CIA and the Cubans were all involved in this together? I think there's no doubt, at least in my mind. And there were at least 2 shooters, as far as I'm concerned, and possibly 3 shooters.
Gordon Novel in the sewer drain. That's my favorite.
Yeah, with a .45 pistol. Yeah, I remember that.
Let me throw a theory out here that is part of a book written by a right-wing Republican operative by the name of Roger Stone. You think he'd be concentrating on Republicans, current Democrats. Why would he do this? He has a book out called The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ. So obviously we know what his theory is. And I've heard him, and I may not always think that I agree with his politics, but he seems to have a lot of facts out there to support what he says. Of course, the basic theory is when you look at someone dying, someone being assassinated, who gains from that person's death?
Exactly. Who benefits?
So wouldn't LBJ be one of those who benefited?
Well, obviously he did benefit. And there's also the testimony of LBJ's mistress. Okay, after he left the White House years later, she came forward. I don't remember now the lady's name, but she said that in pillow talk with LBJ, that he basically stated that he was responsible for JFK's assassination. Now,
the thing is, before you go on, now we understand a lot of politicians have had mistresses or just have a roll in the hay with somebody. But why would the former president of the United States admit to his girlfriend that he was responsible? That seems rather screwy.
Well, I didn't say that I accept this at face value.
Sure.
But that was the allegation.
Right. I'm just looking at the logic behind it or lack thereof.
Well, yeah, but let's cut to the chase, gentlemen. What was one of the first things, I think within a day or two, that Johnson did upon taking office? He signed a huge contract, or had facilitated, I think it was Bell Helicopters, or it was some huge military industrial complex corporation contract that went through almost like rubber stamp. You know, I'm not an expert in this particular JFK realm, but I do remember being struck by some of the early things that Johnson did that first week in office that then went on to, totally creating this whole morass in Vietnam, or entrenching us into Vietnam by, supplying the kinds of money to the armament companies that would necessitate having to somehow spend that money by expending ordnance, basically.
Well, we know that the Gulf of Tonkin episode was a fake. It kind of brings us back to the weapons of mass destruction that got us involved in the Iraqi war. You create a fantasy event, and maybe that's the example that Dick Cheney and W used. You create a phantom event or a phantom piece of evidence, and you send out the military and you enrich the military contractors.
Well, there's just one thing wrong with that, Gene.
I'm happy to know that.
There's one thing wrong with that. Intelligence services from all over Europe, not just Bush and the CIA, but others worldwide, were all claiming that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Now, we know beyond any doubt, because Saddam used them, that they had chemical weapons. Saddam murdered over 5,000 Kurdish civilians.
But Don, where did he get the chemical weapons to begin with and the technology?
Us.
I rest whatever case needs to be rested.
We're not going to rest this case very long, otherwise maybe we'll be arrested.
But
that doesn't sound right. We got Don Ecker of the Dark Matters radio show, the one and the original, except no substitutes. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Bringing you the best in alternative talk radio for over 10 years. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
So here's what happened. I was placing an order online. The site went down. It just stopped responding. It took hours before it returned, but I'd already placed the order with another company. If your site goes down, you could lose business. And if you have a business or personal site, you'll want to know it's easy to run and it will stay online. At iWeb, your site is hosted on one of the most reliable networks in the world. Check it out. iWeb.com. That's iWeb.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
An e-cig revolution is sweeping across the country. But is yours American-made? Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig is. Manufactured in Arkansas with 100% USA-sourced ingredients. And when you buy American, you support local jobs. Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig is top quality at an affordable price. The very principle that once drove the American economy. Get great taste with no ash, tar, or smoke. You'll be wondering why you didn't make the change to Vaporite e-liquid by LeSig a long time ago. LeSig.com has everything you need, for beginners to the advanced vaping enthusiast, with a wide variety of hardware, and also imported e-liquid flavors as well. Plus, LeSig smokes the competition with fast, free, same-day shipping, real people customer service, and a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. Support our country and become a Vaporite at LeSig.com. Or call 870-525-1440. 870-525-1440. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
There's a guy named Dr. Wallach who is anything but your typical doctor. Both a veterinarian and a naturopathic physician, Doc asks, why is this country spending more money on healthcare by far and ranking 50th in health and longevity worldwide? Doc believes that people should empower themselves with a basic understanding of nutrition, taking charge of their life, and attaining optimal health and longevity through nutrition, not by toxic pharmaceutical drugs that lead to side effects that require more expensive and toxic pharmaceutical drugs. Talk about being dependent on drug companies to our own destruction, no less. This is clearly a deadly recipe. Doc Wallach's message is resonating with an increasing number of Americans who are waking up to all the government and big pharma manipulation of our health and healthcare system. I like what Doc Wallach is saying and doing to enlighten people about healthcare, and I've joined forces with him to help this tireless crusader spread his message. Visit brightsideben.com and listen to Doc Wallach's deadly recipe lectures. It makes a lot of sense, and I invite you to join our Brightside Ben team. Go to brightsideben.com. That's www.brightsideben.com.
Hi, my name is Richard Dolan. You're listening to the Paracast.
With Gene and Chris in the Paracast, we have Don Ecker of the Dark Matters radio show, exploring options, choices, things like that for the JFK assassination, whether LBJ was responsible or not, as indicated in Roger Stone's book. I'd like to get him on the show. I think, it's not really something that we normally do on the Paracast. But, the interest in this case, it just never stops. Do you think at all, Don Ecker, that there was any UFO connection?
Well, before I handle that, let me finish my thought from the last segment. One of the things, about the question of weapons of mass destruction that no one at the time looked at were reports coming in from HUMINT on the ground, human intelligence on the ground, that Saddam's forces were shipping their chemical weapons into Syria, In other words, he worked a deal out with Bashar that they would hold the chemical weapons from Iraq and Syria so nothing would be found. Now, I find that very interesting because what happened just several months ago, chemical weapons, in fact, were used over there in Syria on civilians. Now, the fact of the matter is nobody knows actually who the hell used them, whether they were Syrian government forces or the rebels that got their hands on some. But the fact remains they were used. Now, the question is, were they from an Iraqi source or not? Because human intelligence stated that Saddam shipped them to Syria. So that may be another reason why we never found any in Iraq. But we sure as hell found a lot of other stuff and left it sitting out there in the streets in the damn desert, and later they were used against American troops. So that was a screwed up thing from the top down. But that's just for another story. But if you're asking me, Don Ecker, do I believe that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction? Absolutely he did. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
What about UFO connection with JFK?
Or like uncovering a Stargate from some ancient Sumerian site in Ur, and all these sci-fi stories that were coming out early on, talking about the U.S. was going in to recover, this site where a Stargate was. You remember all those stories, Don?
Oh, sure. You always have in areas where strife and conflict are going on, and you guys know this, you have an inordinate amount of sightings and reports about mysterious aerial anomalies, seemingly to keep an eye on what is happening on the ground. Now, to get to the Stargate business, I think that was simply a fact of someone's way overactive imagination. And how would we know anyway, one way or another, whether they found anything? But I will tell you this, and I was just mentioning this the other day to someone else I was talking to. Do you guys recall back in the 90s that there were stories coming out of Israel that claimed that some archaeologists were working somewhere within the physical boundaries of Israel on an ancient site? And this was the story that I remember coming out. Then, like so many of these stories, everything went dark. Everything just shut up. That they had supposedly, this was the story, had found buried in this archaeological site a vault that when it was opened up had a bunch of, the way it was described, weapons and other technological devices that should have, because of the time period, never been there. And I remember that story vividly. And then, of course, everything went quiet about it. Now,
wait a minute. The Israelis discovered this?
Yeah, an Israeli archaeologist.
Give me another time frame. What are we talking about here? This is like 2002, 2003?
No. About 92, 91.
So back during Desert Storm, the original.
Right. Right. That time period. Absolutely.
I never heard that. Wow, I need to dig into that. Thank you for that, Don. That's news to me.
Yeah. And that was the only time I ever saw anything about that particular case. But I, of course, was interested. And for quite a while, I kept my ears and eyes open, but nothing else ever came out of there about that. And if they did find something, of course, I'm sure the government would have jumped right in there, and that would have been the end of that.
Well, do you remember the source of that? Was that Barry Chamish? Because that's about when he was really getting started.
You know, if you have any way to contact him, that might be the guy you want to ask.
Yeah, Barry Chamish. I remember. I haven't heard for a couple, 3 years. I haven't really heard anything about what he's been up to. But I remember back in the early 90s, all through the 90s, actually, Barry Chamish was coming up with some amazing reports out of Israel and out of the Middle East, basically, including some of the weird giant reports. And it was a whole bunch of stuff that he was involved with. I'll do some digging on that. And I'm sure some of our listeners out there who post at Paracast, the forum.paracast.com will help us out with this.
Yeah, that was a story that I always wanted to explore further if it were possible, but unfortunately, I had no way to go forward with it.
By the way, listeners, we have some questions from you that were posted at forum.theparacast.com, and I think we've answered some of them, but Chris is now going to bring out some of the others, going to break out the questions, going to break them in half, check them twice, and see which questions are naughty or nice.
Well, there was one naughty one in there today I saw, but...
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we have Chris ask them?
Well, I'm looking here. I'm not quite sure I see a naughty one, Don, but I do see a couple of very good ones that I think kind of address or speak to your general views about, where we're at here at the end of 2013. We're quite a number of years down the pike here, and historically, according to Burnt State, one of our posters at forum.theparacast.com, Don, historically, we made little progress regarding our understanding of the UFO phenomenon. Can you trace your own views about the origins of the UFO and what shifts in belief you have had over the years and why? That's a big one.
Yeah, that is. Well, I'll tell you, when I first became actively involved in research back in 87, 88, I was firmly convinced that we were dealing strictly with nuts and bolts craft, physical nuts and bolts craft that were coming here. If any of them were coming here from other star systems. And I really gave short shrift to, well, at the time I looked at it as flights of fancy with anything else. And the things that really turned me off then were these more spiritually inclined accounts and reports. But I realized a few years ago, actually, that I probably were selling myself short, because over the years, I've encountered a tremendous amount of stories and information and people that I've met over the years. And, you can't discard everybody's testimony if, in fact, it doesn't hold strictly to your own views. That started to tell me something. Maybe I was looking at a lot of this in the wrong way. And I became more friendly toward possible explanations with a lot of these as being somewhat more etheric, if you will, not just the nuts and bolts. Now, that's not to say that I don't think that a number of these cases, in fact, demonstrate nuts and bolts. But I'm also open to the more paranormal aspects. For example, Ingo Swann, who was regarded as one of the top psychics in the world. As a matter of fact, he was the guy that put together the protocols for the military and the CIA's remote viewing program.
We have another program, this one. We have to do a break. Don Ecker joins us with Gene and Chris. You're in the Paracast.
Listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you'd like to listen to GCN programs on the go, I have great news. GCN has created a Droid and iPhone application, and it's free. Just as easy as going to GCNlive.com, click on the banner and download. Before you know it, you'll be listening to your favorite hard-hitting GCN shows, live or on demand, right on your Droid or iPhone, 24/7 and on the go. So download the Droid and iPhone app free by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Thanks again for listening to GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Who says things can't go down before they go up? The freeze-dry guy, that's who. The freeze-dry guy has just learned of a 2014 manufacturer's price increase on Mountain House freeze-dried foods. So what is he doing about Mountain House food prices going up? The freeze-dry guy is bringing down prices, 20% down for the rest of 2013. Delicious freeze-dried foods like beef stroganoff, green beans, and lasagna with meat sauce are 20% off through December 31st. Freeze-dried peas, diced chicken, and more are 20% off now through December 31st. Go to freezedryguy.com, freezedryguy.com, or call 866-404-3663, 866-404-FOOD. Hurry before Mountain House's 2014 prices. Load up now on tasty freeze-dried foods with a guaranteed shelf life of 25 years or more. Who says ending your year on a down note isn't a good thing? Get Mountain House food down 20% only at freezedryguy.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg. Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
We are answering your questions, listeners, of Don Ecker, the host of the Dark Matters radio show, joining Gene and Chris on the Paracast for the year ender. Don, you finished with that answer, or should we continue before we get to the next question?
No, I wanted to finish up here. And as I looked and I talked to Swan, and we had some rather extensive conversations, I realized that my worldview was too restrictive. And I began to expand my horizons and in my own mind make allowances for some of these other possible explanations for the phenomenon. And believe me, when you're talking about UFOs and other aspects of the paranormal, you better have a pretty large worldview, because there are some pretty strange aspects to this if you take the time to look.
Next question.
Okay, Don. Yeah, I can, believe me, I can identify with that. I mean, it's an evolutionary process in thinking, depending on the amount of time you're willing to put into the research and to actually, do the gray matter crunching and think about all this stuff in an informed way. But here's an interesting subject that, we've been playing, pull and tug with this for years on the Paracast, and that's about alien abductions. As a seasoned investigator in many fields, what is your view on the alien abduction phenomenon? And is there really any concrete proof that someone or something beyond fabrication and delusion is taking place? Do you give any credence at all, for example, to the ideas about alien human hybridization? And this comes from, again, Burton State.
I have a really extensive gray basket that for years I have put many of those reports in. Do I think something is happening? Yes, I do. I do think something is happening. Do I think that it's extraterrestrials coming down here and abducting people? Well, with some cases that I've been exposed to over the years, I'm open to the possibility that, yes, that may be the case. But going back to the very, very beginning of many of these reports, in the aftermath of the books that Hopkins wrote, that Jacobs wrote, I've seen a lot of people jump on that bandwagon every time they had something that they thought was inexplicable happen to them, end up dumping it on the good old aliens. And I have seen, and I'm not suggesting that I'm talking about all people, but I have seen some people that I suspect were confabulating their experiences. Now, what does that mean ultimately? It means ultimately that I've always advised them to do this, because I never felt capable of being involved in that field. I was always afraid I might do more harm to someone than I would do them any good.
Yeah, you and me both.
I always told them that, number one, if you're that convinced that something is happening to you, the first thing I suggest doing is going to your family physician and getting a full physical exam, because a lot of these people would crop up showing me what looked like scoop marks, the infamous scoop marks on their legs or their backs or their arms. You know what I'm talking about, right, Chris?
Couple I could show you.
Yeah, okay. So, that was first and foremost. The second thing I said was, there are not a lot of people in the professional medical fields that might entertain you with these stories. And if you're not getting fulfillment from your family physician, and if it's really bothering you to the point where you feel you're having a hard time dealing with it, then I suggest you seek qualified mental health professionals. I'm not suggesting that anybody is disturbed.
No, they have issues, man, and we all need to deal with our issues, regardless of how real or surreal they are.
But the last thing I told them was, under no circumstance would I personally go to someone that bills themselves as a hypnotherapist working with UFO abductees.
You know how many people I've turned down that have offered to regress me about some of my own, very early on, 7 years old, my first one. but maybe one other experience. My standard answer is that would be the last person I would ever consider hypnotically regressing me.
Right.
And yeah, I don't want to name names here, but continue.
So that was the kind of answer I gave these people. And like I said, I never felt competent enough to basically, do anything with these cases. I was always I was terrified that I might do them more harm than I would do them any good. So as a result, I pretty much stayed away from that aspect of the phenomenon because, quite frankly, guys, I just felt that it was beyond my pay level, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, there's a lot more going on than meets the eye or meets the subconscious.
Yeah.
Well, here's one from Viper Pilot, who is a long-time lurker. We're talking a guy that's been lurking around here 5 years and has only posted 15 messages at forum.theparacast.com. But Don, your year-ender appearance here brought him out, and he has quite a dapper photograph as his avatar. He's like some sort of, 19th century English captain or something. I love it.
I use a puppy.
Well, I think it's not a sock puppet, but yeah, he's using one. Mr. Ecker, while you were a police officer, did you ever run into a high strange event in any of your investigations? And I've never actually heard you answer this question.
Sure you have. And as a matter of fact, yeah, the one, although at the time I never associated the case with anything having to do with the paranormal, UFOs, or anything else.
That's what I meant.
I investigated a couple of cattle mutilations, and you are aware of that.
I am, and I also have quoted in its entirety, with your permission, the human mutilation factor, which I feel is the only really systematically well done look at the whole possibility of human mutilations going on, vis-a-vis the cattle mutilation phenomenon. You are the only person, Don, and I want to publicly acknowledge you for this. You are the only person, to my knowledge, that has ever attempted to look into this subject and publish something about it. And thank you so much for your permission to feature your particular view on this. But I digress. Let me continue.
Let me be clear. The human mutilation thing was not when I was a cop. I did not do that as a police officer.
I understand that. That was afterwards. The cattle mutilation thing, yeah, I just allowed that as a vehicle to kind of...
Neighbors, are you tired of dealing with a slow web hosting provider? Well, check out A2 Hosting and their screaming fast Swift server platform. They even have SSDs that load pages 300% faster than the competition. Ready to give your site a speed boost? Well, tell you what, neighbors, head on over to a2hosting.com. That's A2, that's number 2, a2hosting.com. Check out their Prime hosting account. And get this, neighbors, they're even giving you an exclusive 25% off discount for all our listeners. 25%. And remember, their Guru Crew support team is standing by 24/7, 365 days a year to answer any of your questions. Now, to get the discount, use the coupon code GENE when you check out.
Have you ever felt like the United States government knows way too much about your financial affairs? I continue to hear stories about property seizures, frozen bank accounts, confiscation of stocks and bonds. It makes me wonder if the U.S. citizen will ever again have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unfortunately, with the Drug and Money Laundering Act, the IRS Revenue Ruling 6045 of 1984, and the Trading with the Enemy Act and Franklin D. Roosevelt's Executive Order of 1933, some precious metal holdings are subject to government intervention. For this reason, Midas Resources has prepared a report explaining the boundaries of trading precious metals privately. Whether if you have any intention of trading with Midas Resources or not, I have instructed my representatives to give this report out free. Call for your free copy at 1-800-686-2237. When investing, always proceed with caution. Again, call 1-800-686-2237. Exercise your legal right to trade metals privately. 1-800-686-2237.
Great news, pure water lovers. BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com has a special discount offer for all GCN listeners. You can't do better than a Big Berkey for economy. For only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. There's none better than a Big Berkey for emergency preparedness as a backup water source. And you just can't beat a Big Berkey to remove dangerous chlorine, all types of fluoride, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, parasites, and unhealthy byproducts from municipal water. Berkey water filter systems are even powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. For the gold standard in water filters, get a Big Berkey at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And all GCN listeners get 5% off all ceramic filter systems. For details, call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
I have bought a few bottles of Heart and Body Extract and have to say that it certainly does work.
That's what Jack from Michigan had to say after his experience with heart pain and what he did to treat it with Heart and Body Extract.
I actually had a huge heart flutter. I was also having some edema around my ankles and very worrisome clot in my right leg that would happen from time to time while I was trying to sleep.
Heart and Body Extract is all natural with no negative side effects. It will help repair or correct past problems associated with the heart and body circulation.
After my second bottle of Heart and Body Extract, all problems are now gone.
Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
I ordered a third bottle of Heart and Body Extract for maintenance as I want to keep everything working.
Order Heart and Body Extract at 866-295-5305 or hbextract.com. Heart and Body Extract for a long and healthy life.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Okay, the Paracast seemed a bit mutilated, Chris O'Brien. We have to talk about that later. Don Ecker joins us. You want to continue on that front with human mutilation?
Yeah, I regret having gotten involved in that simply because, not that anybody ever overtly threatened me or anything like that, although I did have a phone call from a guy that was a DEA agent down in Florida at the time after I wrote my paper that I did on human mutilations. And basically he said, and I believe I've talked about this briefly before on another Paracast appearance, but he said, I read that. He said, and when I did, I didn't know if you were full of it or whatever. He said, so I did a little digging, and all I can tell you is steer clear of that. He said, you really, and I'm paraphrasing now, but you have opened Pandora's box with the human mutilation thing. And for 3 years, I tried my darndest to break through that. And I had at one point a number of promising leads into what I thought might be getting me closer to actually what was happening with the human mutilation thing. But ultimately, I realized that I was getting nowhere with it. And I actually also had a lot of sticks and stones thrown at me, and I'm speaking figuratively, after I broached that. I had at one UFO conference right after that article appeared, a variation of it in UFO magazine. I had a well-known guy and his wife in the UFO arena come out of a lecture they were giving, screaming at the top of their lungs at me personally for writing the story and at Vicky for publishing the story in the magazine. So, it was...
wait a minute. Excuse me for interrupting, Don, but inquiring minds at the Paracast want to know. A couple, so we're talking husband and wife?
Yeah.
Okay.
What the hell? It was Whitley Strieber.
Okay. Take it away, Don.
Okay, so I mean, and I've never forgotten that. And I didn't at the time. I didn't know Strieber. I certainly knew who he was, but I didn't know him personally. And his wife could have walked in my front door at that time, and I wouldn't have known who she was. But I've never forgotten that. To me, guys.
Wait a minute, Don. What have you never forgotten? Let's go into a little bit of detail. Why did they approach you? What was their issue? And how did you respond?
Well, I didn't. Okay. I figured that discretion at that time was the better part of valor. I have a very, although it's much more muted these days, at that time I had a very volatile temper. And I figured, that the last thing anybody needed to see were the people that published UFO magazine and the guy that wrote the book Communion out there grappling in a hallway.
Oh man, it sounds like the UFC waiting to happen. I love it. So give us a time frame. This is what, 93, 92?
Well, yeah.
Okay. So you presented this information, and what did the Striebers have at issue, and how did they couch that and communicate it?
That's when Whitley was in his phase of the aliens are basically kind and gentle.
Well, Transformation, I think, was the operative book at that point, 91. Somebody checked that.
Yeah, it was, and all I said in the document, you read my original document, Chris. All I said in there was,
Don, I republished it in my book with your permission because I think it's really important. It's a standalone document that nobody else has ever been able to produce. I mean, please let me acknowledge you. Happy New Year, man. You, as an ex-law enforcement officer, you're the only person, to my knowledge, publicly, that has ever looked into this particular disturbing aspect of the unexplained animal death phenomenon. Okay, to make it as kind of innocuous and general sounding. Basically, Don, your body of evidence in that particular article is standalone. I have never seen, and I've done a lot of research in this, and I've never seen somebody that has come up with as comprehensive a look at even the possible rumors of this. Okay. And really, I need to acknowledge you on this.
Well, thank you. I had a number of people that cautioned me against that. Len Stringfield was one, and Bud Hopkins definitely was another. John Keel was very problematic when I was conducting my investigation, although he did turn me on to a case that happened down in Mexico. So, there were a lot of people that were very dicey about publicly acknowledging what thankfully seems to be an exceedingly rare aspect of the phenomenon.
Well, rarely reported, but
reported, yes.
Don, let's get it right here. Not one of them has ever come forward, to my knowledge, and made a public statement of position on the subject. Not one person that you've mentioned.
Right. Right.
You were the only one. And your position is that we need to take a position on this.
Yeah.
Which I acknowledge you. And I want everybody out there to hear this. Okay. There are certain elements of our want to believe reality that are real fun, and Hollywood has a great time with them, but there's other elements that are on a deeper, more genetic, biological, visceral level that are in our closet. And I want everybody to know that what Don was looking into back then, and I have been looking into for quite some time, especially lately, there's a whole element to our closed system that is blood-based and biological that is really important and imperative to understand before we jump off planet. There's a lot of things going on that connect us with the outside. We need to understand our connections within the closed system before we can possibly understand our connections outside the system.
Well, it's not just human beings. The cattle and other animals that have been.
Don, the aliens aren't particularly interested in us. Maybe they are. We have emotional bodies, blah, blah, blah. It's the wonderful biodiversity in this closed system.
They're actually interested in humpback whales. We have Don Ecker joining Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKE soft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKE soft.com.
We live in a complicated society. Stressful issues are always popping up. Have you ever been treated unfairly by someone? Have you ever been overcharged for a repair? Have you ever signed a contract or a document? Worried about identity theft? How many times have you been in those unique situations where you just wanted to call an attorney to find out if you're right or wrong, or what your legal rights are? But every time you think about calling an attorney, what do you think about first? That's right. Who do you call, and how much will it cost? Our friends at Legal Shield have found a solution. With a nationwide network of 6,900 attorneys who average 19 years of experience, Legal Shield's law firms take over 40,000 calls per week helping their members. For less than $20 per month, you can have access to Legal Shield on everything from the trivial to the traumatic. Let Legal Shield stand up for your rights at lsprotection.com. That's lsprotection.com. Or call 855-340-SAVE, 855-340-7283.
For over 5 years, you've been hearing about the Berkey Guy, so you may know a few things about him. For example, you are well aware of the superior quality and effectiveness of Berkey water filters and accessories. But did you know the Berkeys have had independent lab tests done to prove just how effective they are? It's true, and he can email you the test results. Just visit goberkey.com. You may also know that the Berkey Guy has helped tens of thousands of people get better prepared. Now here's something you may not know. GoBerkey.com has amazing specials and deals all the time on a wide variety of survival and preparedness products, most ready to ship same day. Visit the Berkey Guy at goberkey.com and be sure to click the red Products on Sale Now button. You can always call toll-free 877-886-3653. Again, that's 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com, home of the Berkey Guy.
Hi,
Hi, my name is Annette, and due to menopause symptoms for nearly 2 years, I suffered severe hot flashes, which prevented me from sleeping all night. It was so hard to work because I continued all day to have the hot flashes from hell. I was exhausted and depleted. After only 3 weeks on One World Way, I have no hot flashes, and I'm sleeping normally again. I feel energized and strong. This is an amazing product.
It is a little-known fact that every single cell of your body is supposed to produce 10% of its protein content as glutathione. But due to toxicity and aging, it does not. Could glutathione be a missing factor in optimal cell function for your entire body? If you restore the optimal glutathione levels in your cells, especially your glands and organs, then as a result, your glands and organs work better. Imagine the quality of life improvement you might have. To order One World Way, call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldway.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
So you were about to say something, Chris O'Brien, about my silly comment of humpback whales.
Gene, you're a humpback whale, but that's why we love you. You still know how to go up there and blow a bunch of steam and vapor into the air. I love it.
Oh,
it's a talent.
I sit at your feet, my friend.
You are the ultimate blowhole in that sense.
Well,
I would not want to be a whale in the Western Pacific right now. We're going to see, the whale watch companies are going to go nuts with Fukushima driving all the big cetaceans to the west coast of America. This next year is going to be very interesting in the Pacific Ocean Basin, especially on the west coast of North America. God, the starfish are shedding arms. It's looking grim, folks. 2014, hey, it's a brave new world, and Atlantic farm salmon sound a lot better to me than going to my sushi bar.
Yeah, I was going to mention that when the conversation went this way. I love sushi, and for a long time now, I've refused to partake any.
No, you're gonna, Don, you're gonna see sushi bars with Geiger counters, certified sushi. Okay, you want a really good, piece of hamachi, whatever, some good sashimi, will prove to you it doesn't have hot particles. I mean, we're going to get to that point. This is 2014. Again, it's a brave new post-Fukushima world here in the Pacific Basin.
So let me regress for just a second here. One thing I wanted to mention in the conversation we were having about the mutilation phenomenon with not only human beings, but particularly animals. One thing that John Keel told me years ago, and this was 1988, and I reported it in an interview I did with Keel in UFO Magazine, was the fact that I asked him specifically about the blood loss and all the animals that were cropping up all the time in reports, cattle, deer, God knows what all. And I said, John, if this is true, what do you suspect they're using this material for? Because, my God, you'd been on this beat since the early to mid 60s. And, he told me something that always kind of made me scratch my head and go, huh. He said, what if they're using this biological material and they're creating their own avatars to operate in the environment down here?
Right, tolpoids.
Yes, he mentioned some of the MIT.
Right, manifested biological thought forms done through a process of chemical and scientific ritual and intent.
Yeah. Now think about that. That's some wild stuff, Bubba. That is wild.
Well, Thomas Bearden talked about tolpoids. Of course, we have the Tibetan material with creating these weird sort of doppelganger
tulpas.
beings called tulpas. But not only that, but tiglays. Not many people know about the energetic manifestation of energy in the Tibetan system of the tiglay, which we refer to here as the real orbs, not the fake kind of abstract sort of diffused artifact in a digital photograph orb, but true orbs of energy, which can be seen with the naked eye. Again, 2014, I really feel we're going to see some breakthrough energy. We got some young people coming up with great ideas. I think I'm looking forward to the new year. How about you, Don? Is there any hope?
Well, every year, Gene and Chris, I look forward to the new year. But if you're asking me, do I think that 2014 is going to be better than 2013? Unfortunately, I got to tell you, if anything, I think it's going to be worse. And that's, that's my bottom line. On practically every front you look at, let's face it, things are kind of sagging right now. And the UFO field specifically, it has been years, and I'm talking about years, since I have seen anyone, present company excluded, but anyone doing anything worth a damned on this front. It is disorganized. It's as chaotic as I have personally ever witnessed it being, going back 25 years.
Yeah, fractious, just total lack of direction.
Yeah, that's the other thing, direction. There is at least, what you see out on the web and some of these sites, it's just, it doesn't look good.
Okay, well, Don, I predict at least by 2015 we're going to have some sort of reality show that features ghosts, flying UFOs, and manifesting Bigfoot.
Yeah, that could be.
It's funny how the culture works,
Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, Don, what are you up to, man? What's on your New Year's resolution plate? Where is Dark Matter's going to go from here? How are you going to deal with Art Bell trying to, co-opt your? I mean, my God, how long have you been calling your show that? I mean, it's weird, man.
This year,
what are you going to do about all that? I think you're on the high road, so you don't have anything to worry about. It's almost like Art Bell is setting himself up to fail. It's weird. But other than that, let's leave all that aside. You and Vicky, where are you guys at? How are you viewing 2014 and moving forward in your process?
Well, we are basically moving right along. Vicky and I just celebrated a little over a week ago our 20th wedding anniversary.
Oh, cool, man! Congratulations!
And we're more in love now than we were when we got married.
And they never had a fight.
Well, no, we have our agreements. We definitely have, but excuse me, the one
boy was he embarrassed.
The one that we have learned is we blow over just about as quickly as we blow up. So
that's good.
So that's the good thing. And I've been nursing Vicky for the last few days. She's
right. How's she doing? She got hit by the Texas flu in California.
Yeah. Well, she had a really bad sore throat, and I was pretty concerned about that. But luckily, it seemingly has blown over. But we're doing very well. Thank you.
Well, give her my best. I'm sure for Gene too. I can't wait to finally meet you, man.
we had our chance when I was out there visiting Tracy and doing that whole thing with him and James Fox. And I'm not going to let you slide this time, buddy.
No, I know. And I forget now what, there were some things that had come up, but, it's too bad that the day that you were out there shooting, they had me come in too.
Yeah.
And we missed each other. I mean, it was at different times, but it would have been nice if we could have met up there.
I'll tell you what, guys, we have one more segment to do with Don Ecker of the Dark Matters radio show, and maybe some more questions of our listeners. All this and more coming up. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
If you want to get your website online and you need reliable service, first-class service at the lowest possible price, there's only one place to go. Well, DreamHost has a special promotion with our show where they'll offer you unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, one-click web apps such as WordPress, 24/7 support. You can save over $55. You want to know how? Go to dreamhost.com/radio, dreamhost.com/radio.
This alert just came in. This special announcement is for business owners and leaders of organizations who've been waiting for the right time to build. General Steel has made it impossible to wait any longer with rock-bottom prices that could save you thousands. That's right, General Steel, America's leader in pre-engineered structures, is offering buildings at prices you will never see again. Don't miss these prices. A 50 by 100 for under $30,000. You heard right. That's 5,000 square feet under $30,000. Manufacturers, if you need a larger building, try a 100 by 100 commercial building for $129,000. You can't afford to rent with these prices. Imagine a 70 by 100 foot church building for under $69,000. With the economy improving and interest rates still at historic lows, you can't afford to wait. So call 866-91-STEEL. Lock in your price now. Take delivery in spring. 866-91-STEEL. That's 866-917-8335.
Who says things can't go down before they go up? The freeze-dry guy, that's who. The freeze-dry guy has just learned of a 2014 manufacturer's price increase on Mountain House freeze-dried foods. So what is he doing about Mountain House food prices going up? The freeze-dry guy is bringing down prices, 20% down for the rest of 2013. Delicious freeze-dried foods like beef stroganoff, green beans, and lasagna with meat sauce are 20% off through December 31st. Freeze-dried peas, diced chicken, and more are 20% off now through December 31st. Go to freezedryguy.com, freezedryguy.com, or call 866-404-3663, 866-404-FOOD. Hurry before Mountain House's 2014 prices. Load up now on tasty freeze-dried foods with a guaranteed shelf life of 25 years or more. Who says ending your year on a down note isn't a good thing? Get Mountain House food down 20% only at freezedryguy.com.
You're fired. According to the Small Business Administration, 75% of small businesses plan to eliminate jobs or reduce workers' hours to part-time. You're fired. According to Gallup, the unemployment rate recently jumped to nearly 9%, and the underemployment rate hit a staggering 17.9%. You're fired. 1 out of 3 young adults and 1 out of 2 recent college graduates are underemployed. Hello, I'm Keith Abel, a pharmacist and a home business entrepreneur. In 2011, I became one of those statistics myself. Instead of looking for another job in corporate America, I joined Dr. Joel Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy. We're creating steady incomes for ourselves and would like to show you how to do the same. If you want to supplement your current income, replace your income, so you don't have to become one of the statistics, then give me a call toll-free at 866-257-3105, 866-257-3105.
You're fired.
Don't wait till you hear those words. Start creating an extra income today. 866-257-3105.
Hi, my name is Richard Dolan. You're listening to the Paracast.
We have Don Ecker joining us for Year Ender on the Paracast with Gene and Chris. Chris, do we have any more questions in the hopper? Sounds like a commercial for a satellite service, but forget about that.
Well, we do. And I'm looking at Stoneheart, who is one of our most active members at forum.theparacast.com. He's rapidly approaching the 3,000 message or post club at the forum, which is really impressive.
He doesn't get gold watches, by the way.
Well, he's also received, Gene, 2,300 likes for just under 3,000 posts. I mean, that should give you an idea of this guy's participation. And he has, as his avatar, I love it, he's got a dark side of the moon unfolding and the light coming up through the pyramid and creating, the wonderful prism. And he has a flaming cover of Wish You Were Here with the two executives shaking hands with each other, one of them on fire. I love this. He asked the question, Don, what do you know about the term, quote, enemy helicopters, unquote, in regards to the Vietnam conflict?
Okay, I saw that. Now, you've got to remember that in the context that I was involved in Vietnam, about 40 years ago, enemy helicopters meant something completely different than the context that it has today. Today, if you say about quote-unquote enemy helicopter activity in Vietnam, and one guy that used that in the thing as a UFO cover was Bill Cooper. Used that a number of times to suggest that there were a lot of strange, unusual things that were happening in Vietnam that could be associated with enemy helicopter activity as a cover name. When I was there, enemy helicopters were completely different. Now, this is something a lot of people are not aware of, or if they did hear it, they probably forgot it. But in the war, there were more than just Viet Cong and North Vietnamese military personnel that we were in conflict with.
Yeah, but Don, they didn't have helicopters.
Yeah, they did. They did. And one of the...
they did. They were Russian helicopters or maybe some Chinese kind of black market thing. But, do
you know how many American choppers were shot down and how many probably were recovered? The same way that the Germans during World War II recovered B-17 bombers and patched them up and then used them. Okay. This is a documented fact. Now, let me finish.
About the UFO, because that has always been something that a lot of people have questioned, is the very term enemy helicopters, using that term to actually refer to UFO sightings.
They were not used routinely by the communists, but there were instances and cases where, and this is what I started to say, there were other groups of people there besides the Vietnamese, and they were involved with Chinese special forces that were in contact in certain areas of the country, and Russian special forces troops, Spetsnaz. There were documented cases. As a matter of fact, The Soviet sniper rifle, the Dragunov, which was introduced by the Russians during the Vietnam War, they sent, because it was so top secret at the time, they sent Soviet Spetsnaz troops into South Vietnam to test that rifle on American troops. This is something that's not well known.
Yeah, wow, that's very interesting, because we're talking still to this day state of the art technology. But in terms of the whole UFO connotation, I mean, do you feel that let's say we have any sort of potential documentation of actual UFO activity?
Yes,
that was documented by our military or by other militaries.
Yes,
during the Vietnam War, and that's somebody should write a book about that. Do you know of any books that have been written about UFO reports in and around Vietnam and in the areas of conflict in the 60s and 70s?
Yes, and one case in particular took place in 1968, actually geographically very close to where I was at on the 30th of March, when we were overrun on the DMZ by the communists at the start of the Easter offensive. This was a case that took place, you see, during the war, up through 68, 69, in the area that I was in, had been heavily filled up with Marines during the war. And it was called I Corps. The very tip of South Vietnam to the north, the very tip was I Corps. And I forget now the month, I have this documentation, a mortar counter battery setup that the Marines had been running. In other words, they used radar, and if we were being shelled, the radar would pick up the incoming rounds from the communists, and they could then document and send counter battery fire back at the North Vietnamese guns that were shooting at us. And this guy was in there when they detected, as they called it at the time, they thought it was an enemy helicopter, and they immediately radioed for some Phantom jets that were in the area to come in and take this helicopter out. Well, they were Marine pilots. They flew in. They detected this, whatever it was, on their radar. They launched missiles at it, hit it, blew it up, and the thing went down. Well, the next morning, they sent a recon team in to discover what the heck this thing was. And the only thing they could find, no debris at all, which in itself was very unusual, no debris. The only thing they found was a blackened, charred spot. No material, no craft, no nothing.
Well, Don, next time we have you on, one thing that I really like to discuss with you, and I'm not sure if we've done this prior, is talk about some of the reports. For instance, Bill English talked about a B-52 that was set down, not crash landed into the jungle. And there were human mutilation cases supposedly aboard.
Total crap. And as a matter of fact, I did a report on that. Bill English is another delusional fantasist, okay? He made this crap up. He supposedly had been another Green Beret, another Special Forces guy like Phil Imbrogno, when in fact, English was too young to have served in Vietnam. He never served in Vietnam. When he was in the Army, he was a telephone line repairman. Chris, I know where a lot of these bodies are buried, okay?
We're going to have to bury some more bodies because we're about out of time.
Don, thanks a lot for your help with the book, and I look forward to getting your feedback about it.
I look forward to reading it.
Hey, Don Ecker, tell our listeners where they can find more of your stuff.
Well, you go up to Facebook and you look for Don Ecker, and I've got a Facebook page up there. And if you'd like to hear Dark Matters Radio, it's real simple to hear it live starting 10 p.m. Pacific time. Monday through Friday. Go to www.dqrm.com. dqrm.com. And that'll also direct you to all my vast archives of past shows.
You can find us, by the way, on Twitter. We're known as the Paracast. We are the Paracast on Twitter. There are 2 Paracast fan clubs on Facebook. You'll also find Gene Steinberg and Chris O'Brien there if you look hard enough. Hey, Don Ecker, thanks for joining us this week on the Paracast.
You bet.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.